You're just taking up space here. Mom's words echoed through our cramped apartment as she gestured at my makeshift office corner. 26 years old and still living at home, playing with your computer games. I glanced at my triple monitor setup, where complex real estate analytics and property development algorithms ran 24/7. Not exactly games, but trying to explain blockchain-based property investment to my mother was like teaching quantum physics to a goldfish. I'm working, Mom, I said quietly, watching as another property acquisition alert flashed across my screen. And I pay rent. Rent. She laughed bitterly. That pittance you call rent barely covers your portion of utilities. Meanwhile, your sister Jennifer is a real estate agent, showing actual properties to actual people. Jennifer. The golden child who sold overpriced condos to desperate millennials while I quietly built the largest digital real estate investment platform in the country. Not that my family knew about Phoenix Property Solutions or its billion-dollar portfolio. Speaking of rent, Dad chimed in from his recliner, eyes glued to the TV. It's going up again. That corporate firm downtown keeps buying up everything. Third increase this year. I suppressed a smile. Phoenix Property Solutions, my company, had indeed been acquiring properties throughout the city, including, as of this morning, the very building we lived in. Maybe if Sophie got a real job instead of playing entrepreneur, Mom continued, we could afford a better place. Jennifer's offered to help us find something. I have a job, I muttered, minimizing the screen showing my company's latest acquisition, a $500 million office complex downtown. Typing on computers isn't a job. Mom threw her hands up. Jennifer closed 3 houses last month. What have you done? Closed a $2.3 billion deal in commercial real estate, actually. But they didn't need to know that. Yet. My phone buzzed. Marcus, my CEO calling. Boss, the Henderson Complex papers are ready. You now own 60% of the city's residential units, including this building. Thanks, Marcus. Schedule the tenant notifications for tomorrow. All of them. He knew which building I lived in. Knew why this mattered. Every single one. Mom was still ranting about Jennifer's success when my laptop pinged. The official transfer of ownership was complete. In less than 12 hours, they'd learned that their waste-of-space daughter owned their home. I'm going out, I announced, closing my laptop. Work meeting. Work. Mom scoffed. You mean another coffee shop with your computer? I looked down at my deliberately modest clothes, hiding the Chanel underneath. Something like that. The coffee shop was actually my penthouse office downtown, overlooking the city I was slowly acquiring. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of my growing real estate empire, including the apartment complex where my parents still treated me like a failed entrepreneur. Ms. Mitchell. Marcus entered with a stack of papers. The tenant notifications are ready for your signature, including the one for apartment 4B. My parents' apartment. And the rent increases? As discussed. 40% across the board, except for elderly and low-income residents. He hesitated. Are you sure about this? I picked up the notification letter addressed to Robert and Patricia Mitchell. They wanted me to get a real job. To make something of myself. To stop taking up space. I signed with my executive pen, the one that cost more than their monthly rent. Well, now I own their space. Your sister Jennifer has been calling, Marcus added. Apparently she's trying to get exclusive listing rights for Phoenix properties. She doesn't realize that she's trying to work for her little sister? I laughed. Let her submit a proposal like everyone else. Though her success rate might not meet our standards. I spent the evening reviewing my empire's latest acquisitions. While Mom and Dad watched TV, probably still complaining about their unemployed daughter, I was orchestrating property deals worth billions. The next morning, right on schedule, the building manager knocked on every door, delivering the news about the ownership change and rent increases. I waited in the lobby, dressed in my real clothes now, designer suit, Louboutin heels, power blazer. The security cameras gave me a perfect view of every reaction. 4B. My parents' apartment. Knock. Knock. Mom opened the door, still in her robe. Yes. Mrs. Mitchell? I have some news about the building. It's been acquired by Phoenix Property Solutions. Here's your new lease terms and an eviction notice. Eviction. Her voice carried through the security feed. But we've lived here for 20 years. The new owner is restructuring the building. Your unit is scheduled for premium renovation. However, he checked his tablet. Ms. Sophie Mitchell, the CEO, has offered to review special cases personally. Sophie Mitchell. Mom's face went pale. What do you mean, CEO? That was my cue. The click of my heels echoed through the lobby as I approached their apartment. Mom stood frozen in the doorway, her hand clutching the eviction notice like a lifeline. Behind her, Dad had emerged from his recliner, his morning coffee forgotten. Good morning, Mom, I said pleasantly, adjusting my Cartier watch, the one she'd called a cheap knockoff last week, not realizing it cost more than their annual rent. Having a nice morning? Sophie. She stared at my transformation. Gone were the modest clothes and quiet demeanor, replaced by the CEO who'd been secretly buying up half the city. What is this? This. I plucked the eviction notice from her trembling hands. This is business. Real business. Not the kind Jennifer does, showing overpriced starter homes to desperate couples, but actual large-scale property development and investment. But, you're always just on your computer. Dad stammered from behind her. Yes, managing my multi-billion-dollar real estate empire. Those computer games you love to mock? Property acquisition algorithms. Investment analytics. Digital real estate platforms that process more money in a day than Jennifer makes in a year. The building manager James, who'd worked for me for 3 years without my parents ever knowing, stood professionally to the side, tablet ready. Should I continue with the notifications, Ms. Mitchell? He asked. Please do. And make sure everyone knows about the community meeting tonight. I'll be announcing the building's renovation plans. I smiled at my parents. All residents are welcome. Even those being evicted. Evicted? Mom's voice cracked. Your own parents? Taking up space apparently, I quoted her words back. Isn't that what you said last night? That I was just taking up space. Dad finally found his voice. But where will we go? Everything in the city is owned by. His face dropped as realization hit. By you. Phoenix Property Solutions owns 60% of residential properties in the metropolitan area, I confirmed, enjoying their growing comprehension. Those rent increases you've been complaining about? My company's policy. The corporate firm downtown? That's me. The luxury renovations happening across the city? All mine. Mom sank against the doorframe. All this time, you were living in my building complaining about your unemployed daughter, while I was becoming your landlord. I checked my phone as it buzzed. Another acquisition alert. Oh, look at that. We just closed on the Henderson block. Jennifer's been trying to get listings there for months. As if summoned by her name, my sister's voice carried down the hallway. Mom? Dad? What's going on? The whole building's talking about eviction notices. Jennifer rounded the corner, her realtor badge prominently displayed, and stopped short at the scene. Her eyes darted between my executive attire, our shell-shocked parents, and James's tablet displaying Phoenix Property Solutions logo. Sophie. She blinked rapidly. Why are you dressed like the CEO I am? I finished for her. The same CEO whose company you've been desperately trying to get listing rights from? How's that proposal coming, by the way? I believe our standards require at least an 85% success rate on luxury properties. You're at what, 40%? Her face flushed. That's not. You own Phoenix. Phoenix Property Solutions, Phoenix Development Group, Phoenix Digital Real Estate Platform. I listed off my companies. Oh, and as of this morning, the Henderson block you've been calling about. Though I doubt you'll be getting those listings now. But you're my little sister, she protested. You can't. Can't what? Own the building our parents live in? Control the properties you're trying to sell? Be more successful than the golden child. I turned to James. Please show my sister out. And make sure she understands that Phoenix properties are no longer available to her agency. As security escorted a protesting Jennifer away, I faced my parents again. The eviction notice gives you 30 days. I'd start packing. Wait. Mom reached for my arm. We can talk about this. We're family. Family. I raised an eyebrow. Like when you called my work worthless. When you compared me to Jennifer every day. When you said I was wasting my life on computers. Dad stepped forward. Sophie, please. We didn't know. That's the problem, isn't it? You never bothered to know. Too busy praising Jennifer's mediocre real estate career to notice I was building an empire. I checked my watch again. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting about acquiring the rest of downtown. As I turned to leave, Mom called out desperately, "Where are we supposed to go?" I paused, then reached into my briefcase. "Here's a list of available properties in your price range. Don't worry, I don't own these ones. Yet." The elevator doors opened silently. I'd had them recently upgraded. Another improvement they'd attributed to the mysterious corporate owners. "Oh, and Mom." I called back. "Thanks for telling me to get a real job. Running a billion-dollar company is much more satisfying than taking up space here." The community meeting that evening was set in the building's newly renovated conference room, another upgrade my parents had never questioned. I sat at the head of the glass table, watching through the security feeds as residents filed in, clutching their notices and whispering among themselves. My parents entered last, looking smaller somehow. Mom had changed into her best dress, probably the same one she wore to Jennifer's real estate awards ceremony last year, where she'd loudly lamented my absence. She didn't know I'd been there, in the VIP section, finalizing the purchase of the very building the ceremony was held in. "Good evening," I began, standing in my power suit that cost more than 3 months of their rent. "I'm Sophie Mitchell, CEO of Phoenix Property Solutions. Some of you may know me as Robert and Patricia Mitchell's unemployed daughter from 4B. The ripple of recognition through the crowd was almost physical. Neighbors who'd nodded sympathetically during Mom's rants about my wasted potential now stared wide-eyed between me and my parents. "Over the next 6 months, this building will undergo a complete luxury renovation," I continued, clicking through professional renderings on the presentation screen. "Current market value of units will triple. Unfortunately, this means most current leases will be terminated." "But we can't afford triple rent," someone called out. "I'm aware," I replied coolly. "Which is why we've prepared relocation packages. Elderly residents will be offered subsidized units in our senior living complex. Low-income families will have priority access to our affordable housing properties." I paused, looking directly at my parents. "Others will need to find new accommodations." Marcus appeared at my side with another stack of documents. "The Henderson property papers are ready for your signature, Ms. Mitchell. And your sister Jennifer is in the lobby again. Tell her my assistant's assistant will be happy to explain why her listings have been revoked," I said loudly enough for my parents to hear. Now about the renovation timeline. For the next hour, I detailed plans that would transform their home into luxury apartments. Each announcement felt like a personal victory: the rooftop garden Mom had always dreamed of but would never enjoy, the premium appliances Dad had said were a waste of money, the smart home technology they dismissed as unnecessary gadgets. "Ms. Mitchell," our elderly neighbor Mrs. Chin raised her hand. "I've lived here for 30 years. And you'll be personally escorted to your new unit in Phoenix Seniors Haven," I assured her. "Complete with medical facilities and a view of the park. My parents used to say I never cared about community," I added, watching Mom flinch. They were wrong about that too. The meeting continued with a mix of protests, pleading, and practical questions. Through it all, my parents sat silently, watching their daughter command the room with the authority they'd never believed she possessed. "One final announcement," I said as the meeting drew to a close. "Phoenix Property Solutions is launching a new digital real estate platform next month. We're revolutionizing how properties are bought, sold, and managed. Those worthless computer games are now worth $4.3 billion. Dad's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. "For those interested, there's a waiting list for our new developments. Though I should mention," I smiled directly at my parents, "the application process is quite selective. We don't want anyone just taking up space." As the residents filed out, my parents remained seated, looking lost in the pristine conference room that symbolized everything they'd failed to see coming. "Sophie," Mom started, her voice small. "We didn't know." Obviously, I cut her off, organizing papers I didn't need to organize. "You were too busy bragging about Jennifer's commission checks to notice I was buying the city out from under her." "But why didn't you tell us?" Dad asked. "Tell you?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like when I tried to explain blockchain real estate trading and you said I was playing pretend business. Or when I bought my first building and Mom said I was wasting time with computer nonsense, instead of getting my real estate license like Jennifer. Marcus appeared again. Ms. Mitchell, the Tokyo investors are on the line about the international expansion. Perfect timing, I said standing. Mom, Dad, you can see yourselves out. You know the way for the next 30 days at least. Wait, Mom called desperately. What about Jennifer? Her business depends on Phoenix properties. Jennifer's business depends on her ability to meet our standards, I corrected. Which she doesn't. Maybe she should have spent less time mocking my computer games and more time improving her success rate. But she's your sister. And I'm your daughter, I replied sharply. The one you said was wasting her life. The one you told to stop taking up space. Well, now I own your space. Funny how life works out, isn't it? I gathered my things, watching their reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. They looked old suddenly, their assumptions about success and their daughters crumbling around them. The eviction notice isn't just about business, I admitted quietly. It's about space. My space. The space you never thought I deserved. The space I created for myself while you were busy doubting me. We're sorry, Dad whispered.